Hello, everyone. I wanted to talk about how to know that you are done with a narcissist. Well, there's many ways to know or to be self-aware on how, to know you're done. I think one of the reasons is when you no longer have empathy or compassion for this person, whether they were family, a coworker, or a friend. You won't feel any ounce of empathy or compassion for them. So when they have their moments where they're playing the victim, or they're trying to guilt trip you, or they're testing your sympathy, and there's nothing there, like there's nothing that they could possibly say or do to get you to care about them at all, like even if something bad happens to them. Like, and what I mean by that is, like, you don't have any feelings of resentment or vengeance, but it's like indifference, like anything that they say or do, it's not gonna matter because you just simply don't care about them or their well-being. Not even enough to hate them or to feel any negative feelings towards them. That's one of the ways that you know you're done with a narcissist. Number two, another way that you can tell that deep down you're done with a narcissist is when you start cutting off every connection to them, unless that connection to them is actually healthy. What do I mean by that? So, say you're dealing with a narcissist coworker, and you notice that ever since you cut this narcissistic coworker off, the people that mutual people between the two of you are approaching you, asking you about this person, asking you about the connection between the two of you, and they want to know, like, what's going on, and you either kind of just let them know, like, hey, what me and this narcissist are not cool, or it's a situation where you start like cutting them off, like you don't even respond. Like, if you notice that, like, say you worked at the same job as this coworker, this narcissistic coworker, and you're no longer working at that job anymore, and you notice that all your mutual coworkers are approaching you, and you cut them all off. That's how you know you're done with this particular narcissistic individual. Or say if, like, a mutual connection between you and the narcissist is actually a healthy person, right? Which is rare. This is a very rare occasion, but where you're dealing with somebody who is mutual between you and the narcissist, and they have an unbiased perspective between the both of you, but say because they have a healthy mentality, they get down to the bottom of it and they find out the truth, and then they find out that the person that you're dealing with is a narcissist and that you're the good person, you're healthy. They cut the narcissist off, and then they start talking to you and only you, and there's no more back and forth, he say, she say. This mutual person is no longer being the messenger. They're actually loyal to you, or your ally. This is another way to kind of test to see whether or not you're done with a narcissist, is if you're dealing with somebody who's kind of made it clear, like, hey, I'm not talking to this person anymore. We're not friends. Like, it's a wrap. I'm not cool with this person, just like you're not cool with it. So can we be friends? And so it's really up to you. That's another way that you could tell that you kind of done. Is the only way that you'll talk to mutual people of the narcissist is if they're no longer in contact with that narcissist. That's how you know. That's another way that you know that you're done. Another way that you know that you're done with the narcissist is when you meet new people and they display the same tendencies and the behaviors as a narcissist, or they remind you of that narcissist, and you just cut them off cold turkey. You don't give this new person that reminds you of an old narcissist that you dealt with, you don't give them the time of the day to explain or to lie to you or anything. You just cut them off. No explanation, no nothing. You just ghost them, essentially. You go no contact. You slowly phase yourself out. That's how you know when you no longer hang around the same people that you used to hang around with, and you start noticing red flags, and you start noticing signs in a person's behavior that they could possibly be a narcissist, or even if it's just a hunch, no proof, just a hunch that that person is off. Maybe even if they're not a narcissist, but they're off, or they could cause problems in the future. They'd be a troublemaker, or they're dramatic, and you just don't even give them the time of the day, and you don't give them a chance to get to know you. That's another way that you could tell that you're over a narcissist, or you're over narcissistic people in general, is that when you start to see people who embody those characteristics and they have strong narcissistic tendencies, even if they're not a narcissist, that you're more willing to cut them off and not even give them an opportunity to change their behavior, especially if there's too many red flags, they've displayed deal-breaking behavior, and you just kind of cut the cord without giving an explanation or trying to explain to the people that ask you questions. You just cut people off more often. You're no longer willing to tolerate the same things you tolerated, and being willing to cut people off once they've shown that they're capable of breaking your boundaries intentionally once or more than once, quote unquote unintentionally, you're willing to cut them off. That's how you know that you're fed up with narcissistic people, and that you don't want to. That those are signs that you are fed up with narcissistic individuals, and that you have no interest in entertaining that type of behavior. You have no interest in enabling that type of behavior, and you have no interest in showing any empathy, sympathy, or compassion for people who've displayed that they are narcissists, or that they're not, that their character is flawed, like deeply flawed. Like, we're all flawed, but there are just some people who their character is just off. Their character is garbage, and deep down they know it. When you're dealing with people who have a garbage character, and you're no longer willing to extend any help, you're no longer willing to show any loyalty, or give that person any inkling of a chance to be in your life, that's how you know that you're fed up and done with narcissistic people. It's not bitterness. It's not, oh, I hate narcissists and they should all burn in hell. It's just, no, I've seen this behavior before. I've dealt with this behavior before. I've been through it with people I care about, and it's just got to the point where I'm not willing to care about someone that much to stick around after they've shown me that they're not willing to give me the respect that I deserve. They're not willing to respect my boundaries. They're not willing to protect my peace and be the peace and happiness that I seek in relationships with people. They're not willing to embody that. They're not willing to practice reciprocity or compromise. They're willing to be selfish. They're willing to be liars. They're willing to manipulate. They're willing to do this. And you get into a point where you're just like, no, I've seen this behavior before. I'm not going down that road again. It's not worth it. I don't care how much this person loves me. I don't care how much I care about this person. They gotta go. Or persons or people. Once you start realizing that you kicking them out, and you're not even shedding a tear, or you hear something bad happen to them, or and God forbid, but you even hear about their untimely demise, or like a passing, and it just like, oh, my condolences, but what else do you want me to say? It's like that level of indifference. And I know it sounds kind of cold-hearted, because when we talk about this level of indifference, it makes people uncomfortable. Now, why does it make certain people uncomfortable? Because they can no longer control you. Once they realize that you really do not care about them, and you really got to the point where you just don't care about them. You don't even have to be a narcissist to know when somebody doesn't care about you. You know what I mean? But especially for narcissists, it's a really huge blow to their ego when they realize that they're dealing with a supply who does not care about them anymore. And I've noticed that a lot of people who are talking about the topic of narcissism, they don't necessarily they don't really go into detail about the indifference, okay? Because we live in a society where speaking the truth can get you put in a casket. speaking your mind can start a war. And it can be morally just, but that's the kind of society that we're living in. So when we talk about indifference, when we talk about cutting people off, and when we talk about moving on with our lives, it makes toxic people uncomfortable because of the idea of them no longer having control, them no longer being able to make power moves, them no longer being able to benefit off of being manipulative, deceptive, conniving, two-faced, untrustworthy, dishonest. They can no longer benefit from that once you get to a point where you don't care about them anymore. And I'm pretty sure that, like, for people who are empaths or who are highly sensitive, who really, really feel with their emotions, this is a topic that a lot of people just don't feel comfortable talking about. But it needs to be addressed, because I think that this is like the last step to know that you're really fully done dealing with narcissists. And this is kind of like that make or break. Like, you got out alive. You're able to identify narcissists when you see them. So are you going to keep going back, or are you going to go to something healthy now that you know? Because we can only use that excuse of not knowing any better until we know better. And then when we know better, the question is, are you going to do better or not? Let's just keep it real. Like, are you going to do better or not? Are you going to keep entertaining what you don't want? Or are you going to go for something healthy? And that's that $1 million question that has to be asked when it comes down to knowing whether or not a person is really over a narcissist. And I think the hardest step, which is, I believe, the last step when it comes down to leaving narcissistic entanglements and establishing healthy boundaries and coming across healthier relationships. The last step is indifference. And this is the most uncomfortable step for everybody, because if we have to put ourselves in the shoes of someone who is highly sensitive and empathic, and they're loyal to a fault, reaching a point to where they no longer care about the well-being of another human being. That is very hard to do. It's like asking an elephant not to shoot water from his trout. It's like asking an anteater to switch his diet to leaves, to strictly leaves. It feels nearly impossible to reach a level of indifference towards another human being, let alone someone that we let in our lives so closely. It's very hard. I can understand why it would be so hard to let a person go that you love. I think it's fair to say that we all have somebody or something in our life that we really truly cherish and that we really truly love, and it's hard to let go of that something. Excuse me, there was just another dog that was coming around. There was another dog coming around the corner. Hey babies. Okay, so I want y'all to meet my dogs. This is Honey and Goblin, my baby. This is my baby girl, my princess Honey. See, she's a blue nose pit. I think she's mixed with lab because of the ears, but I guess I'll never know until I have a DNA test. And then this is my baby boy Goblin. Okay, so this is Goblin, Dakota, Charlie. And then this is Honey, Hazel, Bunny. Honey was not no, I did not give Honey her name. That was a name from another owner. If I can find the owner, I'll give it back. But, she's with me now until, I don't know. I'm not sure. But this is my boy right here. This is my buddy Goblin. That's my baby boy. And they both just distracted me because I saw another dog coming around the corner. And it was on. It was on sight. Like, it was like the Bloods and the Crips. They see the op. And they was finna be busting at the gate. But anyway, so so when it comes to talking about indifference, it makes a lot of us unhealthy because I'm pretty sure that a lot of us who come from a culturally rooted family, we believe in family, we believe in culture and tribalism and unity. So the thought of cutting off a family member is like, well, from if we're talking about indigenous culture, for those who are indigenous, when you cut off family, it's like cutting off a piece of yourself, or cutting off a piece of your soul. It's like, turning your back on the family. It's like a betrayal. That's how a lot of us who are indigenous, or who have like strong, grassroots, we are taught that if we cut off family, anybody, it doesn't have to be blood, but once we consider people family, you don't cut them off. No matter how bad things get, we're all a family. We're all supposed to feed each other. We're all supposed to have each other's back and look out for each other. That's the way things are supposed to be. And that's the tradition that a lot of families hold, a lot of families carry. And that's why I think that's a lot of the reasons why I think it's so hard for a lot of us to get out of narcissistic relationships, because of our upbringing with our family. Once we decide that we've allowed a person in our lives, they're family for the rest of our lives, no matter what. And if they ever need something, they can come back. But see, what traditional families need to understand, and I'm just gonna keep it real because I know I sound like that asshole that's like, okay, but that's your time, and this, like that Kanye West quote where he was like, old folks always talking about back in my days. Well, homie, this is my day. Class started 2 hours ago. Oh, am I late? Like, it's just one of those things where it's like, with traditional families, like, we understand that you have your traditions and your customs that you have to uphold. But when we're dealing with, spiritual forces, there has to be accommodations. And even some of the people who've had some of the most traditional upbringings are aware that when you're dealing with someone who is intentionally hurting you, that is intentionally trying to ruin your life and sabotage you, you cannot feed a shark. Okay? You just can't. You can't feed a shark. You can't rescue a hurt lion. Okay? There's just certain things that you just, as much as it goes against your nature to not nurture, some situations you have to let a person suffer. You have to let a person suffer. And a narcissist is like a shark or a lion with less integrity, because sharks and lions do what they do because of survival. Narcissists do what they do because they're evil. Okay? So even the comparison is not fair. But, when we're dealing with people who are intentionally trying to hurt you, who are intentionally trying to ruin your life, who are intentionally abusing you over and over and over again, they know what they're doing. And it's well planned out, well thought out, and it's intentional, 100%. How much of extending yourself to a person can you do before you essentially self-sabotage? And I'm pretty sure that people who are born in a traditional family, who've been through this before, who've had narcissists in their life, whether family member or relationship wise, have already reached this point where they've come to that realization. Well, this narcissist is conflicting with my family values, but I have to make an exception with this person because I see every time I extend a hand to help this person, they drag me down. Every time I feed this person, they bite my hand. So no matter what I do, no matter what I say, no matter how loyal I am, no matter how much I love them, no matter how supportive I am, they're always going to attack me. That's is the mindset of someone who was born in a traditional family. Hello. That is the mindset of someone who has already realized that there are some people that you cannot help. There are some people that you just cannot save, no matter what you do, no matter what their backstory is. They could tell you, oh, well, I was beat up, I was bullied, I was molested, I was assaulted, I was beaten, I was this, that. No one's saying that you can't have compassion for that. No one's saying that you can't feel for that, because we all, especially us victims, we feel for that. When we hear someone say, I've been heartbroken, I've been cheated on, I've been lied to, I've done this, I've done that, I used to hurt people, I used to do this. Well, if you're a human being and you're still alive and you're conscious and you're conscious and you can have a conversation, then you can relate to that experience, whether you've hurt people or you've been the one that's hurt. We all can relate, but it's a certain amount of being able to relate with a person to where
Enjoying the afternoon with you?
It's only a certain amount of how can I put it, understanding a person to where that no longer matters. Okay, because there are actually people out there who use that. They understand that psychological process of empathy, of sympathy, of compassion. They understand that every human being on this earth, whether black, white, or even extraterrestrial, we are all sharing the same space. We're all sharing the same energy. So therefore, we're going through similar experience, whether predator, prey, or peacemaker. It does not matter. We have all shared similar experiences. Narcissists psychologically understand that. That's why they go so hard at playing the victim. And when a person has really, really gotten fed up with the narcissist or with narcissistic people, it's not going to matter how many times that person plays the victim or how bad they've been abused. You're not going to care. I promise you're not going to care. For those who have not reached that level yet of indifference towards your abusive partner or your abusive loved one, you're going to get to that point eventually. And if you don't, well, it's probably I'm just going to keep it real with you, but it's going to end up killing you. Okay? If you don't reach a healthy level of indifference and a healthy level of empathy, compassion, sympathy, all that, you're going to die from being around this person. You're either going to die, wasting your time, wasting your life away, supporting someone who never supported you, or this person is going to stress you to death. It's really up to you to decide. But for the people who have enough experience on dealing with narcissists and they're professionals and they understand exactly what I'm talking about, can testify and say, yes, you are going to have to reach a healthy level of empathy. If you cannot reach indifference, you're going to have to reach a healthy enough amount of empathy, compassion, and sympathy for this person. You're going to have a healthy enough amount, meaning that you're going to have to know when to withhold that level of compassion, empathy, and sympathy. You're going to have to learn when this person is just playing the victim and when this person is when this person has actually been victimized. You're going to have to, unfortunately, treat it like a court case. You're going to have to treat narcissists like a court case. Every time they come to you about a sob story, whether it's true or not, you have to get down to the bottom of it. If you refuse to get to a point where you're done with the narcissist, if you refuse to allow yourself to feel indifference towards them, not to everybody, not to good people who love and support you, but just narcissists, if you're not willing to get to that point, if you're not willing to allow yourself because you don't feel comfortable, then what I highly suggest is reaching a healthy level of empathy, compassion, and sympathy for this person. And when you express these emotions, make sure that they are a victim of the circumstance and make sure that they did not create that circumstance. Because like I said, if you're going to keep giving this person what they're essentially what the supply that they're looking for, you're going to be emotional bait. You are going to be drained. You are going to be stressed. You're going to have health problems. You're going to prematurely age, and then there's going to be premature death. Okay? That is about as blunt as I can keep it. That's about as real as I can keep it. So, at the end of the day, a person has to get to a point where they have to choose me or the other person. So if you're dealing with someone who, if they don't, how can I express this? If you're dealing with someone who doesn't make you feel appreciated, at some point in time, you're going to have to choose between yourself and that individual who's not making you feel at peace with yourself. And just, from my perspective, I can only imagine how hard that could be to live a life where you're battling yourself because you're supporting someone who's battling you. How long, considering how life throws curveballs at us all the time, we don't know when we're gonna lose someone we love. We don't know if we're gonna die the next day. It's too much going on in this world that's stressful enough to have somebody who's making it worse on your team, by your side, sleeping next to you, right? I mean, there's so much in this world that we can easily get stressed out about, where I don't see the logic in keeping someone around that's making it worse. I don't really see the point. Even if you love them, it's like, say if you work your ass off every day, to support this person, and they don't have a job. They don't have a job. They don't plan on ever getting one. You're trying to figure out when y'all gonna get married. They keep talking about wanting it to happen, but the ring never pops up. Or whatever situation you're dealing with. It could be coworkers where you're picking up all the slack at work and no one's doing their job. And when the employer finds out that the tasks are not getting done and you're taking all the heat for it, even though you're doing your job and everybody else's, and the boss is still finding something to complain about. How much of that can you keep going through before you start essentially pointing the blame and putting the blame and pointing your finger where it needs to go? How much more can you possibly take, especially when it's not deserved? It's like working your ass off every day at school to get the best grades you can possibly get. You study every day, you get all the questions right on the test, and your teacher keeps failing you and passing all the other students who refuse to do homework. How much more of that do you think you're going to be able to take, especially if there's 365 days in a year and you got to go to school 5 days out the week? How much more of dealing with that how much more of that can you possibly take? Working your ass off, getting Fs. Nobody's doing their work, they getting A's. And you're being blamed for being a bad student. How much more do you think you're going to be able to tolerate if you working your ass off and the other person's not pulling their weight? Narcissists are not above, having someone else do all the work and they be lazy and not feel an ounce of compassion at all. Not even feeling a little tingle of guilt. They'll just sit there and be like, "Oh well, babe, you dropped a crumb on the floor. You working your fucking ass off to clean the house." And this narcissist never helps. For many years y'all been together, and has the nerve on when you on your last nerve, trying to stop yourself from snapping on this person, and they have the nerve to say, "Oh, you missed the spot." Come on, how much more of that can you possibly take? It's no amount of love in the world that can make a person equipped enough to handle that level of neglect and abuse. Every human being has its limits, and no matter how much you love a person, everybody can snap. And narcissists, every day of their lives, push people to that breaking point, blame a person for snapping even though they instigated the entire time, and then have the nerve to say, "Oh, well, you need to work on your temper. You need to go get some therapy." Those are the mind games that you're going to have to put up with if you refuse to reach a level of indifference towards these people. Okay? Because you're not dealing with someone who's autistic. You're not dealing with someone who has mental problems or a mental disorder. You're dealing with someone who is evil, wicked to the core. Okay? It doesn't matter what their backstory is. The only way that I see their backstory mattering is to really kind of understand the narcissist and not being so judgmental, So it helps with the healing process, but that is the only time it ever matters to know a narcissist's backstory. Other than that, it doesn't matter, okay? They're evil, they're wicked, they made a choice to be this way. The world is cruel and it's hard, and the people that we tolerate are even more cruel than life itself. But the reality of it is, we all have a choice on whether or not we're going to hurt a person, especially if it's intentionally. We all have a choice, and it is not acceptable for a person to continue to make excuses when they're intentionally hurting someone. Intentionally. There is no excuse. And that behavior is unacceptable. And for the good people out there that have a shred of self-respect, should know better. Know better than to tolerate that type of behavior. Especially when we know better. It's one thing to make excuses for a person. That person just don't know. Some of us good people, we wasn't taught in school. No, we wasn't. But when we know better, we need to do better. And then we need to educate other people who don't know better, so that there's no more excuses, and so that life becomes increasingly harder for narcissists to function. Okay? That's just the truth. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it for the audience, but the reality of it is, if you don't reach a healthy level of at least empathy for this person, they're going to destroy you and everybody you love. And that's the cold, hard truth that people are too preppy to admit. Okay? This motherfucker is gonna kill you, whether they're gonna do it with their bare hands, with a weapon, or by abusing you to death. This person's gonna kill you if you don't let them go. And I had to go through the same. That's the only reason why I'm making this video. How dare I make a video telling somebody that they need to leave, they need to do this and that, right, if I'm not following my own example. But that's the only reason why I made this video. Is because I was one of those people who I thought I could love this person out of their personality disorder. I thought I could help them. I thought I could show them things that they were never shown when they were a child. None of it worked, because this person is evil. They're not a good person. They're not going to change. Narcissists in a single lifetime don't change. They don't. Okay? It just does not happen. It's never going to happen. The only way a narcissist changes is if they reincarnate. That's it. That's the cold, hard truth. In this lifetime, if you choose to be a narcissist, you're stuck that way. If you choose to be a good person, you still have a chance to determine whether or not you're going to be bad. But once a person has been identified as a narcissist, it's too late. It's no going back. So once you have identified that person as a narcissist, it's better to just let them go. Even if their life's in danger. Even if they're on the brink of death. So what? That sounds harsh. But think about the things that the narcissists have done to innocent people. Intentionally. Narcissists abuse people intentionally, and they hurt innocent people all the time. They laugh about it. They think it's funny. Why would you want somebody like that close to you or around your children? I know I wouldn't. I wouldn't want somebody somebody that thinks like that and acts like that, I wouldn't want anywhere near my dogs, nor my children, nor anybody who I choose to keep in my life in the future. So it's time for us good people to wake up, smarten up, and nut up or shut up. Because if you're going to be a pussy punk bitch, you're going to die like a pussy punk bitch. But if you know what I'm saying, grow some balls, have some self-respect, cut them off, and stop giving a fuck about them because they're not worth it, any of your emotions, considering how grimy and low down they are and what they're capable of, the great evil that they're capable of. You know what I'm saying? They're just not worth it. It's not personal. It's just a narcissist is a narcissist. You know, it's not personal. The connection between a crocodile and a deer. The deer's just going to the pond to get some water, and the alligator's just hungry. That's it. It's nothing personal. It's just survival. And every single entity on this earth has chosen whether or not they're going to be a predator, a prey, or a peacemaker. And now, good people, it's time for you to decide who you're going to be and what you're going to be and embody that so that the narcissist knows they cannot waste your time and they won't ever waste their time in approaching you. Good luck, good people.